What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben and welcome back to the bench for another episode of our PBY Catalina here on Ben Builds for the Pearl Harbor Group build. Today we're going to go ahead and focus on finishing off the aircraft and getting started on that base. So let's go ahead, let's get going. Now, as you can see, the PBY is looking pretty nice. It's basically finished. Need to come in and do a little bit of work here on the exhausts. Need to add in some of our easy line, need to add in some of the antennas, and of course, unmask all the clear parts. There's a little bit left to be done, but for the most part, we just have to go ahead and wire this into the base and call it quits. So that is not a whole lot. We're getting really close with the aircraft. Now onto the base. As you can see, the base is far from being done. It's just two pieces of foam glued together with some of our Elmer's school glue. Now going forward though, that's where we have to go ahead and figure out what to do and how to make this look a little bit better. So my first thought is we need to go ahead and carve out the center section to get the aircraft to sit a little bit lower beneath the waterline. Then we have to clean up the edges. We have to go ahead and get something to surround all these nice square sides and then paint up everything and do what we can do. Now, speaking of the surrounding base material, I actually picked up this, and these are just a packet of very thin pieces of balsa wood. Super cheap online too, so I'm going to go ahead and see what I can do with them. Now, I've never actually worked with balsa wood before, so I don't really know how it operates, but as you can see, it's perfect size to go ahead and just cut 4 pieces, clamp them to the base, and just call it a day. Now, whether I stain it or I go ahead and paint it, I don't know yet, but I have some options. Now, I did actually think about using one of these for the base, but I don't think I'm going to do that because that would obscure the battery and the wiring, and I don't want to do that. I want that accessible to go ahead and change them out. So basically, I'm just looking at using this balsa wood as side surrounds here on the actual base itself. I should be able to get about 3 pieces out of one of these, so I'm actually pretty pleased with that. It's super flexible. It has a really nice grain pattern in it, so whether I stain it or I paint it, I don't know yet, but we're going to do some work on that and we're going to figure it out. So I think that's going to be really, really awesome. Also, it'll give us a nice support for our switch. It'll make it a little bit beefier so that when I go ahead and install that, it's not going to wiggle and break and end up ovalizing the hole at all. It should be pretty solid. Now, in terms of sealing the foam, I mentioned last time that we had a couple of options. I went ahead and went for Mod Podge. Now, I know there's a lot of YouTubers out there that just absolutely swear by this stuff. I've never used it, but I think we're going to go ahead and attempt to overcoat the entire base with a nice mixture of Mod Podge and sea blue. That's going to go ahead and tint down our base just a little bit, and then once that is dry, we can come back and we can overcoat it once more with just some basic clear Mod Podge right out of the bottle, and that should be good for sealing. Now, before I go ahead and do anything with that, I do have to go ahead and open up the top of the foam so I can go ahead and install the aircraft down beneath the waterline. That's going to be really, really important, I think. Now, I don't want this to be anything too crazy, but I do want a nice subtle nose up attitude just to give it a little bit of forward momentum. Most of the videos I've seen of PBYs taking off, they don't really do anything drastic. There isn't any sort of rapid climb or acceleration. It just seems to gently lift itself out of the water. So I'm not really too concerned about giving anything too dramatic. I just want a slight nose up. I think that'll be a really cool look, and I don't think it'll be that hard to achieve. Should be pretty simple. Now, of course, once I get this all squared away and I figure out the depth at which to go ahead and open up the foam after we get everything painted and sealed, we can install the Catalina down into the foam itself, and then we can pour our resin and add our water effects. So we do have to go ahead and move forward. We have a lot to do, but I think we are getting there, and I'm really excited to see how this turns out. So let's go ahead and move into our first time lapse. I want to go ahead and take our box cutter and start doing a little bit of surgery here on the foam. I want to go ahead and cut into the top of it and allow that aircraft to sit down a little bit lower beneath the waterline. Before I do that though, I do want to come in with my heat gun and just kind of go over it a little bit to hopefully close up some of the pores there on the styrofoam. Overcoat it with Mod Podge tinted down with sea blue, let that dry, overcoat it again with some plain old Mod Podge, and then we'll see how it looks after that. Fingers crossed, guys, this will go well. Let's go ahead, let's have some fun. Alright everybody, so we are back, and as you can see, the base is looking pretty snazzy. I have everything sealed with 2 coats of Mod Podge. The first one was tinted with sea blue, the second one was just plain old Mod Podge right out of the bottle. I think it has successfully sealed. I didn't do the bottom side, but the top side looks like, yeah, I think it's going to be pretty safe to go ahead and paint, and then eventually put resin down on top of. So speaking of paint, I'm going to go ahead and use a couple different colors, and I want to go ahead and tint and shade the base of this to make it look a little bit more like deep water. I don't really know how to do that, but we're just going to play around with different colors. I'm going to use some flat black, deep green, and some MRP sea blue. It's going to hopefully give us a really cool looking base. And of course, while that is drying, I want to come back to the Catalina and finish it off for good. Get the easy line installed, get the exhaust all nicely detailed up, add in a final flat coat just to make sure that that powder is not going to go anywhere, and unmask all of the clear parts. So that is my plan, guys. Let's go ahead and jump into our second time lapse, get this Catalina all finished up, and tackle that base. Let's do it. And we are back, guys. Here is the Catalina all finished up. It looks awesome. I love it. We've got our easy line attached there from the wing tip all the way to the tail surface right there. We've got the exhaust staining a little bit going on there. And of course we have our canopies all unmasked, and I went ahead and took the liberty of polishing them just slightly with some plastic polish to give them a little bit more of a shine and to help the transparency. Overall, I love how this has turned out. It's not perfect. There's a couple of places that probably could have used a little bit more weathering, but I love it. It looks very cool. I'm excited to go ahead and see how this looks on the base. Now, speaking of the base, we have this right here. I like how it looks so far. It does need a sealant coat on top of the paint and eventually the aircraft to be installed, and then of course resin and all that good stuff. But I gotta tell you, a little bit of flat black with some sea blue, awesome color. And then we added in that deep green to go ahead and give it a little bit of a greenish hue. Not sure if that is authentic to the waters around Pearl Harbor, but here on the Pacific coast, we do tend to have a little bit of a greenish hue to our ocean water. So I'm just gonna go with it. While that was drying, I also went ahead and grabbed a piece of our balsa wood and stained it with some antique cherry stain. I'm not really sure I'm digging it, to be honest. I think it's a little bit of a strange color contrast to the blue. I don't know if it really syncs together, you know? But let me know what you think about it. You guys think I should go with a stained wood for the exterior cladding? Or should I go ahead and maybe do just a solid color, like come in and paint the balsa wood black or something like that? I don't know. What do you guys think about it? Let me know in the comments below. But anyway, guys, we're going to go ahead and call it quits for today. We've done a lot of work here on the PBY. It is finished. The base is coming along. Not nearly finished though, but we're getting there. And I think next episode will be our finale for the PBY. We'll go ahead and get the Catalina installed to the base, cover the base with resin, add in some water effects, put that switch in there, go ahead and install that balsa wood. We will be good to go for our final here on the PBY. I do have to make sure that we go ahead and seal up the bottom side of this because in case any of that resin were to leak out, I don't want it melting the inside of my foam, but I think we can go ahead and do that with Mod Podge again. We'll go ahead and install that little brass pipe, Mod Podge all around it, and just make sure the bottom section is nice and watertight. So until our next episode, everybody, thank you so much for sticking it out here, these 11 episodes. With any luck, we have just one more to go, and then we'll have a finished PBY Catalina on a water base. Super excited about that, guys. Until our next episode, you guys know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool, and we'll see you back here on episode 12 of the PBY Catalina and the Pearl Harbor group build here on Ben Builds. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you soon.